lost my.
Yeah, that's live.
No, I'm just saying I lost my pianist. That's up there. Please take the theme song out of your packet, and we're going to sing this one more time with energy. We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. All of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors around us rise, rise, up from the wreckage rise, with tears and with courage rise, fighting for life we rise.
This is the fourth of 5 centering times. Daryl had 5 points, and I think I have 5 points too, and this is number 4. Number 4 of the shins, the Hebrew words that are so important to the Hebrew language and culture that sort of get distorted in our translations. The first one was what? Shabbat, stop it. The second one was Shema, pay attention or listen. The third was Shuv, turn. The fourth is Shamar, Shamar. The first time that word appears in Scripture is in Genesis 2. In Genesis 2, when the humans are in the garden, they are put there in order to shamar and avad it. Now, the older translation says they're put there to keep it and to till it. That's a crappy translation. They're really, keeping has the sense almost of possessing it, but it's not possessing. Shamar is not really about possessing. Shamar is really about guarding. They are to guard, and the other word, avad, is to serve creation. Yesterday, I was on that farm tour to the Jubilee, Jubilee Climate Farm. Jubilee Climate Farm was truly shamaring the earth. It was guarding and protecting and restoring the earth. That is so different then what we often have are attitudes toward the resources we're given. We think the resources we're given are to use, to accumulate, to hold on to, and manipulate. But I think as we come to centering, I think centering is both the prelude and the postlude to rising up. They go together, but it's sort of a rhythm. Stop, listen, turn, and then what are you guarding? What are you seeing that you're watching, that you're taking care of? So write that down, and as you stop and listen, this has been a wonderful gathering for me. CDC annual meeting is always a wonderful gathering. But the theme this year and the presentations, in surprising ways, Alina talked about Grand Rapids, and they were guarding, protecting the refugee. I think most of our people came to this country sometime as refugees. But think what it means as you take this step number 4 to shamar your earth, your congregation, your city, your neighborhood, your family. What is it doing when you are truly guarding and holding them dear? It takes time for us to stop and watch and turn and guard before we know how to rise up in healthy, getting to number 5 ways. And I think most of us, you may wonder about that last shin word, but you all know what it is, and you probably say, why wasn't that first? But you'll have to wait for that.
Good morning, everyone. Had a number of conversations already this morning. Like, this weekend goes really fast. And here we are, Saturday mid-morning, and we still do have some good work to do together, including this conversation and eventual vote on this resolution, response to ongoing suffering in Palestine. So how we're going to use this time is we're going to start with Lydia Brenneman from Lima Mennonite, which is the congregation proposing this resolution, along with Jeff Baer, who is both Lima Mennonite and Resolutions Committee, going to come up and talk a little bit about their thinking and their process and their heart with this resolution. We will get it on the floor officially, and then you'll have about 10 minutes at your tables to discuss this, and I'll give a few more instructions when it's that time. And then we're going to have some open mic time where you can report back from your table thoughts or your own what you bring to this personally before we vote. We're scheduled for about 35 minutes on this, and we'll try to manage that time. So Lydia and Jeff, why don't you go ahead and come up and get us started.
Good morning. I came to the U.S. when our whole family immigrated. It took 3 years to process all our papers after the Six-Day War. I was born in Bethlehem and grew up in Jerusalem. And I am a Palestinian, Christian, Arab. Although my siblings all lost their accent, for some reason, I was 11 years old and people tell me I have an accent. I don't hear it, but I wanted to make that introduction so that you know where the accent comes from. We grew up in the Christian church and we love the Mennonites. All other denominations come and want to establish their own churches. The Mennonites said, no, we are here to help. And MCC has supported Palestinians both in Hebron, with Ada and Ida, Hope School, for those of you who remember way back when Hope School was started and then turned back to the indigenous people, the Christians of that land, and then Bethlehem Bible College, run by my cousins, Bishara Awad and his family. So just a little introduction. I ended up in Lima, Ohio, after marrying Bryce Brenneman, a Mennonite from Elida. And so I've been part of the Mennonite church for many years. And at many conferences, I would stand and say, what about Palestine? Because the church in America seems to be so skewed towards Israel that it does not see the harm that Israel does. We love the Jewish people. They're our cousins. Yet there is harm that's being done. And so my husband and I have led 3 Holy Land tours, and we combine with having MCC speakers speak to our tours. So we're not just seeing Holy Land places, we want to meet the living church. And so we have them eat meals with Palestinian Arab Christians, and we go to refugee camps and Tent of Nations and other spots where we hear of the injustice that's happening. I went to the Kairos conference this past November. So since 2019, we didn't lead any Holy Land tours. We had one set before October 6th, but that did not happen. So for 6 years, I had not been back, and with the Kairos 2 conference, hearing what the church has to say to the huge church, for me was like a miracle. Can you imagine Orthodox and Christians and Methodists and Lutherans all gathering together and agreeing on a document? And yet, if you have not read it, I really recommend you look at the cue card and download it. It's free. Look at it, read it, and also there's a study guide done by the Presbyterian Church for small groups. Well, our church had quite a few people who went with us on Holy Land tours, and I continue to speak as to what's happening in Gaza on the West Bank and to Palestinians, and we befriend students through Menopin. How many of you know of Menopin? Oh, beautiful. Mennonite Palestinian Israeli Network. I've been involved with that for a while, and now I am the temporary acting director until we find another director. And we do need members, and we do need computer experts. I want to say young people, but that's not true. So I came back after touring 3 days with Sabeel and listening again to the urgency of Palestinians saying, something has to stop. What's happening in Gaza is horrendous to humankind. And so through our church, Lima Mennonite, we met with the conference, Spiritual Council and Administrative Council, and said, can we write something up? Now, what was written up was brief, and then we handed it in to the committee that takes care of resolutions, and you end up with 2 pages. I'll let Doug talk about that. Not Doug. Jeff.
I'm Jeff. Jeff Bear. I'm pastor at Lima Mennonite, and I'm also on the resolutions team, which also includes Rich Preheim and Kiva Nice Webb. So I'll first start as pastor at Lima Mennonite. So what I would say is this resolution came bubbling out of our experience with relationship with people in Palestine and the West Bank, and connections to family members and friends of Lydia and Bryce, And so I'm going to call what we have in front of us this morning our burp. I learned something this morning about what that is. And so this was written up. I did a little writing in it, and it's really interesting experience to start from that point and then move to the resolutions team work on it. So I will tell you that there's a white sheet on your table that has the original version that was sent to you as churches through Emma to look at and study. There's a yellow copy on your table that has been tweaked a bit yesterday. So I want to talk about those changes. So get your copies and get them side by side. And I will talk about these things. I'm assuming you had a chance to read this. We don't have time to have you sit there and read it. I hope you have looked at it.
Just make sure everybody has.
Does everybody have we passed them out, but I don't know if we had enough for everybody. If some table has extras, maybe you can hold them up, and somebody that doesn't have one can come and get it. I see some up in the air. If you need one, maybe you can get it from them. No, we took them all from your table. So I can start out saying that we use the recommended form that a resolution comes in, which has sections of faith, hope, and love. The changes that we made are all in the faith section, that first section.
One was yellow when we added.
Is there one more extra?
We moved it
You
into
moved it?
another section.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, everybody can see one? All right, I want you to go down to the third paragraph under the faith section. It starts out saying, as followers of Jesus, our faith convicts us to speak. One of the changes happened in that last sentence. It starts out saying, recognizing this truth and our complicity, we commit to divesting ourselves financially and theologically from Zionism. That has been changed as you look at your yellow sheet to say, recognizing this truth and our complicity, we commit to divesting ourselves financially from the U.S.-backed Israeli genocide and theologically from Christian Zionism. Another spot where we changed is in the next paragraph. It starts out saying, we believe in the practice of lament. Right after that sentence, we inserted these words. We lament and renounce the slaughter of Israelis by Hamas on October 27, 2023. Seventh. That should be 7th. I'm not sure how the 27th got in there. Cross out the 2. Thank you. And let's see. Also, we lament our complicity as Americans whose tax dollars fund the genocide against Palestinians. There was a word "this" in there. We changed that to the. I believe those are the things that we have changed. So the motion is to accept the yellow version on your table of this resolution, and we, as the resolution committee, and propose that we accept this as a resolution. We make that motion.
Okay, so with the slight change that it's October 7th rather than 27th, we need a second to consider the motion to adopt this resolution. Okay, Ron Byler. 8th Street? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and we are going to take 10 minutes now at your tables to discuss this. And one way that you can, let's just talk about what you affirm. What do you really affirm in this statement? And also, what concerns or questions do you have? So just think in those two categories. What can you affirm, and what concerns or questions do you have about this as written? Yeah, we have a question. Yeah.
This may be more appropriate to answer after the table discussion, but do we have a working definition of what we mean by Christian Zionism?
We do not have anything other than the language that's right here, but that'd be something good to bring up. You can discuss it at your table, and it's something that as we kind of fill this out, if we pass this and take it to our congregations, that we can work on together. Thank you. So let's go ahead and take 10 minutes now at your tables. I think it's going to be better for them to just get in line and everything. Good call. Yeah, I never got Wi-Fi. Yeah, in terms of how we record our conversations, that's not really relevant. Yeah, we don't need to record anything.
some of the changes, like the edits, I want the strength thing. The October 7th, like, it does feel in it a little bit like hostage. Like, that might be like a critique, or it's just like what this document is doing. Like, and in the solidarity and support for Palestinians facing genocide, particularly Palestinian Christians. So I affirm it. I think it's well written. I'm grateful for my connections. I think I'm wondering like about it purposefully. We've had these who say that fundamental action stuff. Like it feels like another document, and that's maybe what the purpose for. I'm kind of wondering that, wanting to hear a little more like how this maybe just the economic through Palestinian justice centers. This would be helpful, but it feels like kind of an amen. Right? Like, it keeps going in something like none of this stuff add something to it, but it feels like maybe an extra explanation like necessary. So that's like a question I have. How the last section, like how do we kind of answer the call to keep going on about resistance, continue those relationships, build on all the other things. That's the wondering I have. How do we see this student strength? Maybe the statement of it was right. But overall climate is strong, and I like the Beethoven love, right? And my
I'm not going to say it. Yeah, the Kairos 2 document does a nice section.
I'm aware of this existing, but not like line by line.
I'm going to shift the conversation. When we do our memorials and light our candles for those who have passed, trying to figure out where we out of the way. Yeah, if we could have a space right there.
I'll just clear everything. Just remind me.
Okay.
And I can.
About 2 more minutes at your tables. So far, if you've only named things you affirm, bring up some concerns or questions you may have. You do not need to record anything. That we're not going to collect anything, but of course you're welcome to write things down for your own reference.
How much it mentions all the
We're going to move towards a time of having comments from the microphones. We have 2 mic stands in the back, one on each side. And no, we're not going to walk around. No, we'd like to have people stand in line there at those microphones. Let me also highlight that this statement that we're working with has 2 big documents that are behind it. Lydia referenced the Kairos 2 document, which was written by Palestinian Christians. As well, the document itself also references our 2017 Mennonite Church USA resolution. Both of those do, just to speak to the question that was already raised, both of those do speak to Christian Zionism. There's a footnote 6 in our collective resolution, Mennonite Church USA, that says Christian Zionism theology advocates the gathering of the Jews in biblical Israel, typically as a prerequisite for the second coming of Jesus, and that Christians should support the state of Israel. And the Kairos 2 document very explicitly rejects, this is language from that, we reject the oppression and injustice produced by the theology of racism, colonialism, and ethnic supremacy embodied in Christian Zionism, a theology that has produced apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and genocide of indigenous people, and it goes on in a whole section there to talk about Christian Zionism. So just keep in mind that the document that we have has these 2 actually larger documents behind it, and as we talk with our congregations about this, that these should be also in hand. But if you have comments, please go to the microphone, state your name and your congregation, and address your comments to me rather than to one another, just to keep it civil. I'm optimistic that we'll do that, but. Mm-hmm.
Mark Moser, Emmanuel Mennonite, Gainesville.
Okay.
In the section where on the last page, the middle paragraph, where it says later on in the paragraph, develop local relationships with Palestinians, Muslims, Christian, those of no faith tradition. We are wondering why Jewish folks weren't included in that too. And the suggestion would be that we consider that.
Okay, Lydia or Jeff, do you want to come forward and speak to, maybe you should just stand here in case there's questions of points of information like that. And if you do have a formal proposal you'd like to make for an amendment, let us know about that language.
Thanks, Mark. I actually have a note in my copy that we should include that, and I didn't do that this morning. So I agree with you that that should be included in that sentence. And so if you want to bring a motion to add that, if this is appropriate kind of procedure, Gerald, thank you for your affirmation.
So, Joel, I'm looking at you and wanting to move that we include Jewish into that sentence to include them as well.
That's the one you have underlined.
Yeah, the sentence itself, develop local relationships with Palestinians, all those categories are subcategories of Palestinians. And so,
yeah.
I don't think that's the spirit of what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Not just you.
Joe, I'm inclined to speak to that too. That sentence caught me at first too, and then I looked at it grammatically. It's just like you say. It's addressing Palestinians, dash, Muslim, Christians, those of no faith traditions, dash. Except it may catch other people too. So it's not just a simple thing to add Jewish, I don't think, Jews, in that sentence. It's a more complicated thing than I think, because this is
Could someone do some thinking about how to fit this in to this part of the statement, and then we can entertain it.
Good,
we can entertain
because
that when we have.
I hate wordsmithing by a whole big group like this. It's
Yeah.
not the way to do it.
Also, the primary principle of our faith is to love our neighbors and our enemies. I don't know
Scott Coulter, Table 8, Assembly Mennonite Church. I don't have a specific suggestion about where to put Jews in that sentence, and I think we should work on that. I think one thing that maybe I just overheard Lydia suggest too is that we say develop local relationships with Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, those of other faith traditions or no faith tradition, recognizing that there's plenty of religious diversity and people that identify as Palestine might not fit into any of those three categories, and that makes it less exclusivist in terms of Christians, Muslims, and nuns, because there would be others.
One grammatical suggestion for dealing with where to put Jewish people would be to put it up front of the Palestinians, develop local relationships with Jewish people, comma, Palestinians, including Muslims and Christians, and those of no faith tradition in or near your community. Charles Gibson, First Mennonite Church, Urbana.
Okay, that does work a little bit better grammatically. Develop local relationships with Jews and with Palestinians, and then what we already have describes the different groups of Palestinians. I'll also point out that our denominational document covers this ground as well. But, okay, so do we have a formal proposal for an amendment? Develop local relationships with Jews and with Palestinians. It does. Let's yeah, let's just, it's bubbling, it's bubbling. Let's hear another comment from the microphone. Am I missing anybody over here? Krista, are you waiting to speak?
Trey was there.
Okay, we'll have Trey and then to Krista. Okay.
Trey Ferguson, Raleigh Mennonite Church, Table 10. What's happening? In the fourth paragraph, one of the amendments that was made added the sentence about "we lament and renounce the slaughter of Israelis by Hamas on October 7th, 2023," and this is a bit of wordsmithing. And apologize if it sounds pedantic, but the word "renounce" implies a level of relational capital that I'm not sure if we're right to presume, and so. I don't know if we'd be better served by swapping that out for the word "denounce," which is a little like renounce typically implies something that you have partaken in and have some level of investment in. I don't know what's there for us. Denounce might be a little bit clearer, or just removing that and just saying that we lament what happened, because I do know that from some of the conversations I've had with our Palestinian neighbors, that one of the things that is grating is the speed with which everybody rushed to condemn actions that were clearly already condemnable, and it sounds like a bit of like low-hanging fruit, but then that word "renounce" can sound as though we're assuming a level of relational capital that maybe we haven't all displayed just yet.
Are you suggesting to amend it to simply remove "renounce," so "we lament the slaughter of Israelis," followed by "we lament our complicity as Americans with the genocide"?
Right. So my
change it to
suggestion
denounce.
would either be to change it to "denounce" or to remove that and just leave. Yes, I move that we strike the word, that we change the word to "denounce," or strike that word entirely.
Yes, that's the point. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what your motion was. Was it denounce or leave that out?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
I still don't know. What
Denounce. I suppose.
Denounce. Okay.
Yes.
So the suggested amendment is "we lament and denounce the slaughter of Israelis by Hamas." We need a second for that. Okay. Thanks, Nick. So we are now voting on or discussing whether that's a language change that we want to make. Is there any discussion about this particular point? Okay, let's vote on whether. Yeah. Well, we have to focus on this one. Yep. Okay, so let's vote on whether to change "renounce" to "denounce." All in favor, raise your hand, or aye? Aye. Okay, all opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the amendment passes, and we have that new language now as the document that we're discussing. Is it a point of information? Or okay, let's hear. Go ahead. Sorry, Krista, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Can I return to the conversation that Mark was raising, or is that out of order?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, all right. Krista Showalter East, Table 5 from Shalom Mennonite. I was just wondering if that second to last paragraph in the love section, that sentence, develop local relationships with Palestinians, my sense is that the thrust of that is to be developing relationships with Palestinians, and so it confuses it there to add Jewish people, and would suggest that we find another place to add a sentence about coalition building with Muslim, Jewish, and other affinity groups.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cesar?
Yeah. Cesar Moya, Emmanuel Mennonite Church. In the third paragraph on hope is my recommendation is include after in stories and traditions include interpretations of the sacred texts. Interpretations of the sacred texts. In my experience, I know that there are several streams in every of these confession of faith, Muslims and Jewish, and including Christians. Not all of them are interpreting the sacred text in the peaceful way.
Are you suggesting a language change, or are you pointing to something?
No, include this sentence. After that, our differences in stories and traditions, colon, interpretations of the sacred texts, colon, sacred places and sacred ways, etc., etc., etc.
Interpretations of our sacred texts.
Yeah, that's okay.
Of the sacred texts. Of sacred texts. We hope for love and understanding between all the Abrahamic faith traditions, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim, that our differences in stories and traditions, interpretations of sacred texts, sacred places, and sacred ways might enrich. Okay, so was that was a motion for an amendment, is that right? Okay, we will need a second for that. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to amend the text with those added words, interpretations of sacred texts. Is there any other discussion about that point?
How different, like I understand it's different, let's say, but how different is that the differences in stories and traditions? That's not necessarily a question for you, just like more of a rhetorical question.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of adding interpretation of the script, because even the sentence above it, the Abrahamic faith, you're going to hear a lot about the Abrahamic faith. Those two words put together want Christians and Muslims and Jews to be all in agreement with a political viewpoint. I'm even nervous about having those two words in our document. So I like the idea of as people interpret it, because scripture is being interpreted way varied ways. That's why we have Christian Zionism, and that's why we're standing against Christian Zionism. And it's leading to also national Zionism. So as it's interpreted is a very good idea.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote whether to amend the language to interpretations of sacred text, which is inserting it there. All who are in favor of this amendment, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All who are opposed? Okay, abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes for that added language. I'm just sort of noting where we're at time-wise. I think we have one significant issue in the air here of not including, of thinking about including ways of relating with Jewish neighbors. I will point out too that our 2017 document talks about that extensively, and that the language in here may not be exactly perfect, but can it do what we need it to do to get us discussing and doing the work here within our congregations? We can take a couple more comments from the floor, and if anyone has any suggestions for that particular amendment, otherwise we'll vote on it as it currently is.
My name is Meg Lewis. I'm with Madison Mennonite Church, and I appreciate everyone's careful attention to the wording in this, but I also just wanted to kind of zoom back and just really, my comment just speaks to kind of as a whole. I think this resolution needs to happen now. It's an urgent matter that, is kind of the urgent issue of our, peace issue of our lifetimes, in the way that the genocide in Germany was in a different generation. I definitely feel that don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I've heard comments about, well, we haven't read the entire thing or the whole report or all of those kind of comments. I sympathize with that feeling, but I also really want to say, like, I was very moved by Lydia. I think trusting in kind of our siblings who have real life experience and have dedicated their lives to this and who've put their time into drafting something also really matters a great deal. And what I also understand about the Mennonite Church is that this will go to congregations and they'll discuss it, they'll study more, they'll determine what actions to be taken. Just from a personal perspective, this was the issue that brought me to the Mennonite Church in the first place a couple of years ago, like when these things were happening. And I really hope that this body will adopt this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take two more comments.
I have a wording suggestion.
Okay.
This is coming somewhat out of my context in Winnipeg, where I have a relationship with a lot of Israeli migrants who've moved to Winnipeg because of the conflict. So develop local relationships with
Could you tell us where you're at again?
We're at back at the
I see, yep.
that paragraph.
You're there. Yep.
That were develop local relationships with Palestinians and Israelis, Muslims, Jews, Christians, those of other faith traditions and those of no faith tradition, in or near, and the rest remains the same. So it's adding Israelis as parallel to Palestinians and adding Jews in the list of faith traditions in a way that still leads with Palestinians and concludes with Palestinians as the center of that conversation and why that's important.
Okay, we have a proposal for amended language. Develop local relationships with Palestinians and Israelis, Muslims, Jews, Christians, and then as written. We would need a second. Okay. Got it. Are you getting this, Emma? That's the important person to make sure we have those. Okay, so those three changes, including Israelis, inserting Jews, and then those of other faith traditions. Do we have a second for that? Okay. Okay, is there any discussion about that point? Yeah, Elena.
Yeah, can you come to the mic?
I just wanted to say I appreciated what Krista suggested earlier of separating it as a coalition building component that kind of shares the writing it as why, like, we're building these relationships as coalition building to act for the liberation and for justice for the Palestinian people, because that's the focus of this resolution, I think. So I love Matt, but I don't love that suggestion.
Okay. Anyone else have something to say about this amendment proposal? Go ahead, Lydia.
Matt, can your sentence be in a different spot? Like in the ending, love, the primary principle of faith is to love our neighbor and our enemies, and then add that sentence about all the faiths and no faith and all that in that place, and leave what's there, just as a suggestion.
Is what you're saying, Lydia, is that your intention with this paragraph of "We do not walk alone" is specifically naming solidarity with Palestinians? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Because Christian church is asking, where are the Christians?
Okay. Sasha, you have a comment about this amendment?
Yes. Wherever we put it in, I wanted clarification on whether we're saying Jews or Jewish people, and can anybody speak to whether those terms are synonymous or if one is automatically better than the other?
If you have a comment related to the amendment, go ahead.
Nick Dubkowski, Grand Rapids Mennonite. I can't necessarily speak to what Sasha was just saying, but I do suggest that, as Joel alluded, we leave it as is, and people can refer to the 2017 document if they want to know more about how we feel about the Jewish people, and call this good.
Okay, so we've heard some people in favor and not in favor of the amendment, so that's good. That's how discussion's supposed to work. So we do need to vote on the amendments. Again, the amendment is in this paragraph: develop local relationships with Palestinians and Israelis, Muslims, Jews, Christians, those of other faith traditions, those of no faith tradition. Are we ready to vote on this amendment? Okay, so all who are in favor of this amendment, raise your hand. Okay, all who are opposed, raise your hands. Oh, that's close. Those who abstain? Okay, I think we're going to need to count. Yeah, so all who are in favor, please raise your hand again.
Is it only delegates voting?
Only delegates, please, yes.
Raise them high, please.
I got 26.
Yep.
26? Okay. And all those who are opposed, raise your hands. I think that's going to be more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, the amendment fails. So we are still back to the language as written. Sure. Raise them again.
Of what? For which thing?
It was in the 30s.
Okay.
Okay. Did anybody get an exact count? Okay, let's do the nays again. Yeah. 37.
Those abstain?
Yeah, abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. 13. Okay, Mariah?
Can you announce that?
Oh,
State the results again.
okay, the results were that 26 voted for the amendment, 37 voted against it, and how many abstained? And 13 abstained, so the motion fails.
Mariah Hurst, Assembly Mennonite Church from table 14. This is not wordsmithing, it's just in general. Comments at our table were things like, it's nice, but we don't just want something to click and share. So even more concrete, direct, specific next steps and more actionable. So yes, for sure, but what are we taking back to our congregations even more to be like, this is what we can be doing. There is some of that. Some of our table was like, good, there are some here, and most of our table was like, and please give us more.
Okay, thank you. Let's just have these two final comments and then call the question.
Rena LeBlanc, Emmaus Road Mennonite Fellowship. As far as that sentence, could we just take out what's in the hyphens and put develop local relationships with Palestinians in or near our community? And then we don't have to have all the groups. That's just a suggestion. That's a motion to just remove between the hyphens and develop relationships with Palestinians in our local communities.
Okay, there's a motion to amend it by removing those specific types of folks. Is there a second to that amendment? Okay. Any discussion about that? Okay. All who are in favor of that amendment, of eliminating that language between the hyphens, please raise your hand.
Raise them high, please.
36. 36 in favor. All who are opposed to that amendment. Let's go with the middle one. 20 are opposed, abstained. Two more than you every time.
A few of you vote and then bring your hand down.
Keep it up.
We need you, when you vote, to really vote.
This is abstentions.
Abstention.
Okay. Okay, 25 abstained. So the motion passes 36 for, 20 against, and 25 abstaining. So we will strike that language. You have. Okay. Is there any other comments from the microphones? Matt?
Matthew Yoder, Grace Mennonite Church, Pandora, Ohio, Table 1, and I move that we call for the question. Can I do that? Okay.
Is there a second? That means we're going to vote. Call. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. All who are in favor of ending conversation. Is that right? Yeah? All who are in favor of ending conversation? Okay, hands down, opposed? Okay, the motion passes, and we are now ready to move toward a vote on the resolution with all of the amendments. Do I need to restate those? No. Document as amended. We are voting on the document as amended. All who are in favor of the document as amended, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay. All who are opposed? Okay. Abstentions? Okay, it passes unanimously. I think Ron's word of shamar is a really good one to keep in mind with this. You are now the keepers of this language, of this collective resolution that we have. And keep in mind that this adds to other statements that we have already made. 2017, our brothers and sisters, Palestinian Christians, from the Kairos 1 and 2 documents. And we'll continue to talk about this together and in our congregations. We're now going to be moving toward a couple reports from the Missional Church and Ministerial Committee, and I may not have gotten them right in that order, but how are they listed? Okay, Missional Church Committee report comes next.
Let's all take a deep, cleansing breath as we transition. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Elizabeth Kelly from First Mennonite Bluffton, and I chair the Missional Church Committee. Over the past 3 years, the Missional Church Committee has worked with Matt Pritchard and Emma Hartman to administer the Emerging Church and Reign of God grants that were the fruit of the Tending Transformation campaign. We supported new models of church planning that don't look like models of the past. No offense to anyone who exercised models of the past, they were effective then, but things have changed. On page 64 of your conference book, you will find the official written report of the Missional Church Committee with more detail. And on the facing page 65, you will see a spreadsheet with detailed information about our distribution of over $20,000 within 6 months from the Rise Up, Take Courage Mutual Aid Fund. You have heard others talk about this fund that did not exist in June 2025. I want to share with you how this fund came to be. The Missional Church Committee meets twice a year along with other CDC leaders at Camp Friedenswald in April and November, and several times in between via Zoom. We review and process grant applications, review their annual reports, and share news from other contacts we've made with the grantees. In 2024, we lost 4 members of our 7-member committee to completed terms, a resignation, and a death. This story picks up at our fall meeting, the first after the 2025 CDC annual meeting. We'd never all been in the same room at the same time around the same table. It was Friday, November 7th. We'd gathered for dinner and separated into our various committees to work through a full agenda. It was late. The agenda seemed tedious. Many of us were worried about the mounting tensions in the world that others have described. One seat was empty because one new member could not travel due to risk. The energy was waning, my energy was waning, and I suggested we just call it a night. A voice was raised and a fist hit the table. No, there are people starving on my street and they need help now. Another voice. Yes, we have to find a way to get help to people immediately. Their needs can't wait. Let's call them MAC 1 and MAC 2. We needed a fast-acting fund to provide resources to CDC congregations trying to stem the tidal wave of food and housing insecurity, immigrant neighbors losing work permits or too afraid to go to work, and people being snatched off the streets, leaving families behind with no means of basic financial and legal support. We needed a fund with a simple application form and a commitment that the committee would review and reply within a week. If approved, the check could go out immediately. One member pulled up a sample application and started revising it for our purposes. We would post it on the CDC website. Once submitted, if 2 committee members approved the request, we wouldn't wait for everyone else to read their emails. Emma would send the check. Others tweaked elements of the process as we discussed how it could work. Everyone was burping at once. Wait, do we have money for this? What if we have more requests than we have funds? Emma reviewed the spreadsheets and our financials and tallied the undesignated funds available to us. We had $40,000. We wondered if we needed to ask permission from Doug or the executive committee. No, we didn't have time to waste. The funds were in our budget, and we had the authority to act. That's exactly what was said. We don't have time to waste. And I did already write this. Someone said they would give Doug or Joel a heads up before morning. We decided to call it the Rise Up, Take Courage Mutual Aid Fund. We finished off the remaining agenda items and closed the meeting. It took just over 1 hour to do this work. The next morning, we shared the plan, answered a question or two, chatted with Sarah Werner about our communication ideas, and tied up the loose ends. Information about the fund was soon posted, and the first application arrived on November 17th, 10 days from an expression of righteous indignation to the first request. In March, we reviewed our process and made some adjustments to stretch limited funds and to consider how we could help congregations also lever other resources available to them. We know that the issues we faced last November, some have subsided in some places, and others persist. We know that the disruption in the lives of vulnerable people will linger for years to come. These needs will not go away, nor will they be easily resolved. Keep burping, rise up, take courage.
Gail Gerber-Kunz from the Ministerial Committee. We move a little more deliberately than and slowly. But since we credential leaders, maybe that's a good thing. I'd like to thank the anonymous donors of the Educational Debt Fund. You will find our report on page 63, by the way. The Clergy Educational Debt Fund, and on behalf of the recipients of this fund, want to say thank you to those donors. We awarded the remaining $32,000 in that relief fund this year, and we're really pleased to be able to do so. A couple things that are not noted in our report. Theological education graduates from the CDC this year included MDiv graduate Malika Hirschberger from Normal. Pleased for that. There are no Journey graduates. The annual report is done once a year, and several of them will be coming up, but not this year. But we have a special privilege of announcing the first 2 D-Min graduates from AMBS, both from CDC, and they're here with us today. First, Janine Birchie-Johnson. Janine's, I think you all know what she looks like, but just in case, stand up. Okay. And so you have something else to talk with Janine about. The title of her dissertation was Healing After the Shame of a Difficult Ministry. Oops, sorry. Difficult ministry endings, okay. And I think that is going to be in process of publication, so you'll have an opportunity to look for that. The second is James Rissler from Atlanta. And the title of his dissertation is How Faith-Adjacent People Experienced Spirituality in Wild Church. So if you wonder what faith-adjacent is, talk to James. The second thing we do each year is to recognize newly ordained and licensed pastors from the last year. So because it's a little awkward to come up and introduce yourselves, I'd like you to stand when I read your names, if you're here. You can stand if you're not here, too. Oh. Okay, ordinations. Carla Minter from the Open Table Fellowship. Thank you. And maybe just remain standing, but hold your applause. Julia Smith from Faith Mennonite Church. She's here. Chaska Yoder from First Mennonite Church, Bluffton. Not here. Brian Mall, Cincinnati Mennonite Fellowship. Georgia Metz, Shalom Mennonite Congregation. Paul Brubaker from Paoli Mennonite. Okay. Ben Kreider from Chapel Hill. And Joshua Richardson from St. Louis. Okay, so obviously our pastors are very busy doing their ministry. But welcome to all of you who are here. And now people who are licensed, also please stand. Elena Dubkowski from Grand Rapids, licensed toward ordination, and Noah Rains, licensed for specific ministry at the New Light Fellowship. And welcome to it. Finally, other members of this committee will be helping us remember those who served faithfully as CDC pastors, who this past year became, through death, part of the cloud of witnesses that we hold in our memory. So would other members of you come forward? Pardon?
Candles are in.
Okay. And we will light memorial candles after each.
Lillian Eleonora Elias, 84, died of leukemia in January in Indianapolis. Lillian was born in Drake, Saskatchewan. She and Jacob Elias enjoyed more than 62 years of marriage. Besides Jake, she is survived by their children and spouses, Laurel and Mark Crawford of Sydney, Australia, Moreland and his wife Julie Van Pelt of Seattle, and Joylyn and John Yimikoff of Horton, Michigan, as well as their children and grandchildren. She is also remembered by a wide circle of extended family, including sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews. Lillian's love of children led to an undergraduate degree at Goshen College and a master's degree at Indiana University, and years spent as an elementary, special education, and preschool teacher. At 60, she completed an MDiv at AMBS and was ordained as pastor of Parkview Mennonite Church in Kokomo, Indiana, where she served for 10 years. Throughout her life, Lillian practiced hospitality by providing meals and opening her home to others. Foster children, international students, visiting pastors, and at-risk youth were all welcome. Some stayed for weeks,
some months, or even years. Curiosity and creativity shaped her days. She was a lifelong learner and embraced other cultures, notably during months spent on sabbatical in Israel, Palestine, and in India. Whether stitching quilts for her children and grandchildren, collecting family recipes, or assembling the family history, or working her way through a stack of library books, Lillian stayed actively engaged. She walked daily, in all weather, continuing this practice until she was admitted to the hospital 2 weeks before her death. We are lighting this candle to remember Lillian.
Myron Dave Schrag, January 10, 1937 to December 6, 2025. A sojourner whose ministry carried him from India to Indiana. Myron was a pastor, peacemaker, and faithful follower of Jesus who completed his earthly journey on December 6, 2025. He died at home in Goshen, Indiana, surrounded by family. Born January 10, 1937 in Norwich, Kansas, Myron was the fifth of 6 children of Dave and Adina Schrag. Raised on a farm, he often reflected on how his rural upbringing shaped his character and work ethic. His faith was nurtured at Bethany Mennonite Church, where he was baptized as a teenager, beginning a lifelong journey of discipleship, one shaped by the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. Myron served congregations in Newton, Kansas, as a chaplain at Woodstock School in India, and for many years at Faith Mennonite Church in Minneapolis, where he was active in peace movements and helped found People of Faith Peacemakers. His ministry consistently emphasized inclusion, compassion, the conviction that Christ is present among the poor and oppressed, and he concluded his pastoral career at 8th Street Mennonite Church in Goshen, Indiana, retiring in 2002.
Dean Heisey, born December 15, 1957 in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, was known and loved for many gifts. He was a pastor earlier in life in Church of the Brethren congregations in Denton, Maryland, Elkhart, Indiana, Wichita, Kansas, and later Southside Christian Church in South Bend. And also as a chaplain at South Bend's Memorial Hospital and Elkhart General Hospital. Dean was an agent of change, known to his colleagues as the Idea Man for innovation, transformation, and inviting and encouraging others to grow in faith, and consulting widely with leaders, churches, and nonprofits, including brief visits with me and Shalom Mennonite in 2014 with Mennonite Mission Network. Dean was a vocalist, serving with many choirs, chorales, and ensembles, especially in the Elkhart area. He was a social hobbyist who shared with others his love of raising toy fox terriers, organic gardening, and non-resistant horse training. And Dean was also an avid cyclist, which is how he died on May 25th, 2026, after being struck by an SUV near Mishawaka. Finally, Dean was a father and partner. In the South Bend Tribune, his son Ezra recalled with gratitude his father's, quote, voice, his larger-than-life personality, and his support when Ezra came out as queer, only then to see his father come out 2 years later. So Dean is most deeply missed by his son, his partner John Summers, but also by all who knew and loved him.
Elmer Alvin Wall was born October 30, 1929, in Mountain Lake, Minnesota, and died May 26, 2026, at the age of 97 in Goshen, Indiana. His education began in a one-room country school and then continued at Mountain Lake High School, Mountain Lake, Minnesota, Bethel College, North Newton, Kansas, Goshen Biblical Seminary, and McCormick Theological Seminary, from which he graduated with a Master of Theology in 1960. Elmer began his pastoral ministry in July 1955 at Warren Street Mennonite Church, Middlebury, Indiana. He was ordained in his home church in Mountain Lake in 1956. Elmer and Winifred Elizabeth Mumal were married at Prairie Street Mennonite Church, Elkhart, Indiana, in 1960. They were blessed with 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Winifred passed away in 2023. Together, Elmer and Winifred served in pastorates in Middletown, Ohio, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 2 churches in Carlock, Illinois, Freeman, South Dakota, and Pretty Prairie, Kansas. Elmer enjoyed all aspects of his pastoral ministries. He is said to have read through the Bible at least 63 times. There's a challenge for all of us. And preached his last sermon at the age of 90.
Mark Leroy Widener, age 82, passed away peacefully beside his family on September 27th, 2025 in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. His children include Lisa Adams and spouse Scott, Becky Widener and spouse Larry Penner, Tim Widener and spouse Elaine Ash, Elizabeth Widener and her spouse Alejandro Sanchez, and his wife Kay. Mark started his career in engineering. After serving with Mennonite Central Committee in Vietnam during the war, he left his engineering career when the Kent State shootings called him to take a new path into ministry. This calling led him to many Mennonite institutions, including planting a church in Cincinnati, Ohio, now City Peace Church, Central District Conference Minister, Ohio Conference Minister, and Vice President at AMBS, our seminary. When I learned of Mark's death, I invited people who work closely with Mark across CDC to share some of their memories of Mark. Margaret Sawatsky says, I remember Mark for his laid-back and gentle humor, his warm personality, and always treating each person with authentic kindness. Myron Schrag said, I always appreciated his wise counsel as well as his sense of humor. Ruth Naylor offered, Mark definitely deserves recognition for calling many women into positions of ministry and or leadership positions that had not previously been open to women. Jane Reshley offered, I am grateful for Mark's non-anxious presence, gentle spirit, caring heart, ready laugh, peace and justice making commitments, and love for the church and God's universal kingdom. When I began as conference minister, I asked Mark to be one of those 6 people who would take a day and pray each week for me in this role as conference minister. I'm so grateful for the mentoring, the leadership, and the guidance that Mark has provided and helped to shape Central District Conference and all of us. We give thanks for the life of Mark Widener. these lives, these lights continue to burn in us. Thanks be to God.
This is the word you all know in Hebrew. You probably wondered why it's not the first word. We have two congregations that begin with this word. It's what we're known for. Well, sort of. We don't seem to be able always to get along very well. Shalom. But the verb of that is shalem, to make peace. And so as we come to the end of these shin words, it's what do we do next? I think it's time we come out that maybe each of you write a 2-page essay. Because I have a book called What Justice Looks Like. And I think for us, it would be good to say, peace looks like, in each of your situations, peace looks like something different. Is peace harmony? Well, that's what it can mean. Is peace beauty? That's what it means. Is peace rest? That's what it can mean. Each of you, I think, have your own vision of what God's peace looks like, what God's will on earth like, what God's will on earth looks like. So as you center, we come back to this sense of, I think, what God kept saying at the end of each day of creation. It's good. It's very good. And I always thought, well, that meant it was utilitarian. And I realized that says more about me than about God. I think God may have said at the end of the day, I like this. That's peace. That's well-being. That's harmony. That's wealth. So today, as you leave this place, I urge you to take these 5 Hebrew words with you, to stop, to listen, to turn, to guard, and to make peace. We've heard these testimonies of 5 shalom makers. May you carry God's light with you and be a shalom maker in your life. Amen and amen.
Salvation, the Lord is my
shall I whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I fear? Wait on the Lord and be of good courage. Wait on the Lord and be of good courage. Wait on the Lord and be of good courage. He shall strengthen thy heart. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I fear? We have one more official action as delegates, which is to pass the spending plan for this coming fiscal year. We heard about it yesterday, and now it's up for a vote. Can I get a motion from the board to, do we need? Okay. Clayton, you're about to do that as well. We have a first and a second. I don't know if I did that right. Okay, so Clayton from Silverwood and Gail from Assembly. So we're going to vote on whether to pass the spending plan. All who are in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. All who are opposed, abstains. The motion passes. We have a spending plan.
Thank you so much for your diligent work. There are children who are expecting their parents to pick them up at our normal ending time, which is noon. So we will proceed with that in mind, caring for our children. I'd like you to pull out your purple folder again. There is both an evaluation form, yellow paper. You can begin to fill out that now as you both listen and jot a few responses down, gut responses, because you know that if you don't fill it out now and leave it on the table, we'll never know what your experience was like. So please take a moment to fill out the yellow paper for the evaluation form. There is also a yellow paper for CDC suggestions for leadership positions. Our discernment committee values highly your recommendations. The people who are on committees are you. And if you know someone in your congregation who would be a good fit for the work that you see doing here, even if they're not here today or have never been at this meeting, put their names down, get those names into the awareness of the Gifts Discernment Committee. This form is also online, so anytime, all year, you can submit nominations. Next is our time for open mic. And I would encourage you, again, we've done a lot of good work today, to pause a moment, take a breath. And if there is something that you feel that you need to say to this group, we'll have just a minute or two with mics in the back, something that you feel like it's very important that you say to this group. There will be times when you can talk with your congregation at home, but this open mic time is a time if there's something that you would like to share with this group in the next few minutes. Brian.
Just very quickly, I wanted to invite everyone, September 11th, 12th, and 13th at North Danvers Mennonite Church. We're going to be celebrating our 175th anniversary. Perry Bush is going to be there to speak and talk about the history of Mennonites in Illinois and North Danvers' place in that. Elizabeth Miller is going to be there. Other speakers. It's going to be a great weekend. Look for a postcard. I think you guys all got the initial flyer, and you should. All of the CDC congregation should be receiving our final plan. So I just wanted to invite everybody.
Thank you. Brian Johnson from North Danvers Mennonite Church, Illinois. Lydia.
Lydia Brenneman from Lima Mennonite Church. I really want to thank all of you for your generous hard work on the document, and I do hope that it doesn't just sit on a shelf somewhere. Many of you are already with Mennonite Action, and Mennonite Action has taught us how to act and speak on behalf of the Palestinians or people who have no voice. So thank you again.
Janine Birchie Johnson, 8th Street. Just want to acknowledge that the first two conference presidents who were not either ordained or a pastor in the conference died this last year. Howard, on page 58, you can see all the conference presidents. Howard Baumgartner, who served 87 to 88, died October 30th of 2025 from burn. And Stan Clemens died January 11th, 26, from Bluffton.
Thank you, Janine, for that recognition.
Thanks for their gifts to this conference.
We are grateful. Thank you.
Sherry Schmidt from Paoli, Indiana. And when you said one thing I would like to say, something that has come to my awareness recently that I want to share, because all of us are going to be leaving and asking, what can I do? And that is to be aware that everything is created twice. Everything that you're looking at in this room was somebody's thought before it could become form. We were God's thought before we were put in a human form. And so it just underlines how important imagination is. And what we spend our time, what words saying, thinking about, comes back to us because we create it. When we're thinking negative thoughts, we give oxygen to negative behaviors and so on. So I think I just want to say, let's imagine, beginning to imagine, what does peace look like? And where in my life am I not experiencing, where am I feeling a longing or a discontent? And what would peace look like in that situation? So everyone is in the image of God, has an imagination, and we co-create with what we're thinking. So just imagine, maybe imagine what would we like to see next year as far as God's, the growth of the kingdom.
Thank you, Sherry. I'll invite the listening committee to come and be prepared. Yes, but I wanted to get the listening committee coming this way. Grace.
Grace Hostetler, Chapel Hill Mennonite Fellowship. I have been responsible for the random mini Jesuses everywhere, and if you want a mini Jesus, you can grab it if you find it. And also I have like 200, so if you want another one, you can come find me.
Thank you, Grace. Francisco.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I'm kind of one of the new kids on the block here, so being an emerging church, but this is probably the first conference I've been in, coming from a Baptist background, that I actually felt life was given to me. Everybody hear my story, and I've talked to several people, and I am pumped up. I am excited to be here because I have never been to a conference where there's so much love for the LGBT community, and just to hear the stories and the stuff. And I've been to a lot of Bible conferences in my lifetime. But, and I knew something was special when I joined Journey at ABS in 23, and I finished the program this past January. And I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for each of you, and thank you for listening to me throughout the last few days. It mattered. It made a big difference in my life, and I'm excited, and I have a lot of energy leaving today for this conference. I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Amen. Thank you. Listening Committee.
Hey everybody, I'm Trey, Raleigh Mennonite Church, part of the listening committee. We did a lot of the listening for you, so right now, I understand if you don't have much capacity for doing the same. I'd appreciate it if you could listen really quickly so I don't have to speak too slowly. All right. Joel rightly put forward that Anabaptists are by definition chosen family. And as such, these annual meetings are chosen family reunions. And over the past several reunions, we've tended to transformation, listened for wisdom as it called us. And in this season, it's time to commit to taking courageous action. Our history as a conference, and indeed our extended chosen family, can help inform the moment we find ourselves in and the direction we choose to take moving forward. We began in worship by focusing on the invitation to do what is good instead of policing what is lawful. As Gerald Mass provided the historical context of Article 19 in our Confession of Faith, we learned of the courageous actions of the Mennonite colleges who withdrew from the Council of Christian Colleges and Universities to become safer for our LGBTQIA+ siblings. They pursued what was good, regardless of what was perceived as lawful. And that level of courageous clarity provides a path forward for us as curious congregations try to discern where we stand and if the Central District Conference is a safe home for them. There is no salvation without safety. To that end, we spent time discerning how we can embody what is good in light of what has been articulated as lawful in Article 19, even as we welcome the new sibling congregation in Knoxville Mennonite Church. Whether more congregations elect to follow the same path may depend on the action, courageous or not, that we take on Article 19. Cesar Moya reminded us of the hope that we find in Jesus and that it was authored from the perspective of the victim. And so all courageous rising up begins from the locus of those who find themselves underneath the boot of authoritarianism. The Jubilee Climate Farm reminds us that humanity does not pay the wages of sin alone, but that creation itself cries out for salvation. Industrial farming erodes the earth, but agro-farming and intentionality can redeem the very soil of the earth. Even in the act of farming and gardening, we find examples of courageous action. This morning, Darrell Byler made plain the unprecedented times in which we find ourselves, with a little help from Sasha, Dr. Seuss, and a turtle named Mac. But we're not left without hope. We are never without hope. Just as Jesus imparted the Holy Spirit on his disciples when he breathed on them, it is noon. Just as Jesus imparted the Holy Spirit on his disciples when he breathed on them, there is power in our breath. And so we are encouraged to reclaim our power to burp, to release the breath within us. Here are a couple things that we did not hear. We did not hear that we cannot do this. We did not hear that we do not have what it takes. And so when Joshua Richardson from St. Louis Mennonite Fellowship shows us what it looks like to be resourceful by using Rise Up mutual aid funds to secure work permits for an asylum-seeking family, and Elena from Grand Rapids shows us how those same funds can be used as the foundation for further fundraising efforts, we see what it looks like to rise up and take courageous actions. Now, Elena thanked us for having her back and having Grand Rapids Mennonites back. And this is what chosen family is for making courage easier to walk in. And so when Meg from Madison this morning reminded us of the urgency of now regarding our Palestinian neighbors, this too is what chosen family is for. And Darrell was right to remind us this morning that it only takes 3.5% of a population to make substantial change. We'd like to offer our gratitude to the Resolution Committee, who's led us toward equipping our congregations to listen for the Spirit, guiding them toward local alliances and actions. And as Elizabeth Kelly shows us how a courageous church on mission acts when resources are intentionally directed, we have a path forward for rising up and taking courage. We have what it takes to lock arms with our neighbors and to rise up.
Rena LeBlanc, Emmaus Road Mennonite Fellowship. This week, I spent some of the time listening to the sounds, not to the words. I heard laughter, peace, and love. I heard the sounds of a joyful family reunion. When I did listen to words, I learned that we are a conference of wordsmiths and care deeply about saying the right thing in the right way. I heard words of hope, words of encouragement, and words of clarification. We listen, we speak, we rise together.
So I offer a bit of a benediction. As a spiritual director, I kind of listen to the spiritual flow. We have a choice. We can feel helpless, or we can turn our anger into burping. Let us ask ourselves, what does love require? What does justice require? What does Jesus require? I will not try to duplicate what Ron did with the Shin words, but I suggest that you go home and write the 2-page essay. I will tell you that one of the essays I wrote for one of Ron's classes cinched my master's program. And God said, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." And Jesus breathed on them. May you go from this place remembering to breathe in the Spirit that Jesus imparted to us. So could you breathe in? Let us do it to find wisdom for the peacemaking laid before us. Let us do it to discern the transformation God has in mind for the world. Let us do it for the health of our congregations and conference. And let us do it once again before we leave.
We are going to sing a final song, so go ahead and stand. And before that, thank you all for your spirited participation, and the 70th Annual Business Meeting of Central District Conference has come to a close.
You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break forth before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the fields will clap their hands. And all the trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands as you go out with joy. You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break forth before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the fields will clap their hands. And all the trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands as you go out with joy.
Go out with joy. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty good. After that.